less than 10-point margin for them. All right, then we've got the Seattle Seahawks on the road at the Cincinnati Bengals. Boy, this would be a huge statement win for both teams. If Cincinnati if Seattle with Cam Chancellor back, now 2-0 with him back, bouncing back from the 0-2 start, coming off the controversial win here this Monday night, where they still played decent, though, I thought. Not necessarily amazing, but fairly good, in my opinion. It would be a huge statement for them to go on the road and beat the 4-0 Bengals. Vice versa, it would be a huge statement for the Bengals at being the 4-0 team against a 2-2 team, at home, to make the statement as well and win the game and say, no, we're for real, and move to 5-0 and further separate themselves from the rest of the pack in their division, which they're already doing a decent job of with a 2-game lead over the second place Steelers. And then they can really start looking to, not pull it back, but, start focusing on not just winning the division, but getting one of the top 2 seeds in that first round bye, and, having a home game in the second round of the playoffs guaranteed, and all that stuff. So a huge statement game. This is my game of the week here. Like, this is the game that I want to watch the most, intrigues me the most, is the biggest, most important tell, of this season out of this week's games, in my opinion. The Bengals are a 1.5-point favorite to win that game at home, so almost a straight-up pick 'em. I want to go with the Bengals, and very possible the Bengals win it. But to give both teams the benefit of the doubt, the champs, really, in my opinion, in Seattle, even though technically they lost to the Patriots last year, and the Bengals are still the Bengals. So I am going to pick Seattle to cover that 1.5-point spread. Now, that's not to say that the Bengals don't end up winning the game by 1 point. But I think it will be that close of a game. It's going to come down to 1 point probably, or one possession for sure. So, coin flip to pick who wins the game. And then, like I said, being the underdog, I'm picking the Seahawks to cover the 1.5-point spread. Moving on, Cleveland Browns. My name is Cleveland Brown, and I am proud to be in the AFC South and 1-3. That was pretty good, huh? Right? I wrote that. Yeah, I wrote that. Come into me. Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens 6.5-point favorite at home. I am actually picking, as long as Josh McCown is still the quarterback for the Browns, I am picking against them in almost every way. Not that I am a Johnny Manziel fan, but Josh McCown guarantees your lack of success. So I'll take the Ravens to both win the game and cover the 6.5-point spread at home doing it. Next, we've got the St. Louis Rams on the road at the Green Bay Packers. This is another great game, not quite as intriguing to me as Cincinnati hosting Seattle. But Rams on the road at the Packers should be a good, legitimate challenge to the Packers, and would be a huge statement win for the Rams if they could go into Green Bay and win this as a 9.5-point underdog. I will definitely pick the St. Louis Rams to lose by less than 10 points. However, I would still pick the Green Bay Packers to win that game at home. Then we have the New Orleans Saints on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are a 5.5-point favorite. Not only do I think they're a lousy team with a lousy coach, I also think that spread is too high. And the Saints with Drew Brees back now, coming off their first win. Don't be surprised with C.J. Spiller healthy in the backfield as well as Mark Ingram. Don't be surprised if that offense starts clicking a little bit more like we all expected it to, and the defense is not as bad as you think it is. It's still not very good, but it's not as bad as you think it is. So I will definitely pick the Saints to cover that 5.5-point spread. However, straight up pick them, I will probably, it's two bad teams, so I will take the home team in a straight up who you got to win, that being the Eagles. Then we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Basically the battle for Florida here. This is going to be intense. Picking the Jags as a 2.5-point underdog to not only cover that spread but win the game, and don't be surprised if they do it somewhat convincingly. Jaguars are better than you think. for the record as well. Also, we've got the Arizona Cardinals at the road against the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions only a 2.5-point underdog. I'm taking the Cardinals to cover the spread and win the game. Then we've got the New England Patriots on the road, a 9.5-point favorite over the Dallas Cowboys with Brandon Weeden at quarterback, Des Bryant out, defensive question marks, concerns. New England Patriots healthy, coming off of a bye. I like the Patriots on the road to both beat the Cowboys by more than 9.5 points and win that game. Then we've got the Denver Broncos on the road at the Oakland Raiders. Raiders are a 5.5-point underdog. Wouldn't surprise me if the Raiders win this game. I'm not going to pick them. I'm going to pick the Broncos to win the game, but I'm going to pick the Raiders to cover that 5.5-point spread and make it at least a respectable, close division contest, because the Raiders are not very bad either. They're actually better than most people think as well, too. Then we've got the San Francisco 49ers at the New York Giants. Giants are a 7.5-point favorite. That is the Sunday night game. Not sure why, when you've got way better games to choose from here on the schedule, but for whatever reason, that's it. Giants, much better team on paper, better team than their record suggests. Niners are about as bad as it gets. However, for some reason, these seem to be the types of games at home, national spotlight against a lousy team that year after year after year after year, the New York Giants find a way to blow or come close to blowing. You said blowing. So, I'm going to pick the San Francisco 49ers to cover the 7.5-point spread. They will lose by less than 7.5 points is my prediction. However, my prediction is still that they will lose. The New York Giants will win that home game and go to 3-2 and establish themselves as the first place team in the NFC East. And then finally in the Monday night game, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, now led by Michael Vick at quarterback, on the road against the San Diego Chargers. The San Diego Chargers are a 3.5-point favorite. I will pick the Chargers to both win that game and cover that spread. All right, that's everything for NFL talk. Woo! All right, so continuing now, finishing up Ball's breakdown with our very shortened up college NCAA breakdown last week. My kind of, sort of, not really, Minnesota Gophers started their Big Ten season with a loss on the road to 16th, then 16th ranked, I believe, Northwestern by a respectable score of 27-0. So your breakdown of that is as follows. Northwestern, good football team. They're legit. They're for real. They're as good as people thought they might be going into that. Gophers, overrated. Not as good as people thought they were. Defense, poor showing, but still really good. Injury catching up with defense more than anything. As defense is more player execution than play calling anyway. Offensive side of the ball, which is more play calling than player execution. Our head coach / play caller is lousy. A terrible offensive mind. Has no idea what he's doing. Stinks. I'm not just overreacting and saying this. I've said this all along. I can't stand the guy. Don't like him one bit. Don't think he knows what he's doing. And week after week, he proves me right. That is the one thing I do like about Mr. Jerry Kill, head coach of the Minnesota Gophers. Everybody wants to blame the offensive struggles on two things. Quarterback Mitch Leidner not being any good, which isn't true. Although he hasn't played particularly great, him not being any good is not true, and his play is not the reason that we have been losing or not performing well when we've been winning on the offensive side of the ball. And the other reason is the injury issues at offensive line. That is a little more legit, however, still not the accurate, correct explanation when you watch the team play. Jerry Kill has misrecruited a ton of the guys on this team for his style of offense. Mitch Leidner in particular, he could be a great quarterback if he was running any sort of pro-style offense or spread offense or anything other than this stupid read option crap that Kill insists on running. You need a Cam Newton for that. You need a Tim Tebow for that. You need A Michael Vick or something for that. Not a Mitch Leitner. Mitch Leitner's like a Flacco. Okay, you need him to just stand there and throw the ball. Those nice little short to intermediate West Coast type of throws. Use his size and his arm strength to his advantage. Just horribly misrecruited cast of characters for this scheme, which leads me to believe that it's not necessarily the scheme is bad or wrong, but that Kill has no idea how to use it and never will if you don't now. So head coach stinks. Take it easy on the O-line. They're injured and doing the best they can. Take it easy on the defense. They're injured and doing the best they can. And take it easy on Mitch Leitner. He is a Joe Flacco being asked to play like Colin Kaepernick. So take it easy on him as well. Focus almost all of your blame on head coach Jerry Kill. All right, so then recapping some of last week's more notable games in college football, we had Iowa beating Wisconsin by a score of 10-6. Somewhat of a shocker. We had Michigan shutting out Maryland 28-0. Michigan now in the top 25. We'll give you that in just a moment. We had Michigan State squeaking by Purdue 24-21. We also had, we had Alabama winning in conference, beating Georgia, ranked Georgia 38-10. So big win for Alabama, big loss for Georgia. We also had, we had Baylor putting 63 on Texas Tech. Yikes. We had Indiana putting up a respective showing, losing to the number 1 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes by a score of 34-27. We had, what else did we have here? We had Oklahoma State just barely get by Kansas State 36-34. We had Ole Miss, who was ranked like number 3 at the time, losing to number 25 ranked at the time, Florida, by a score of 38-10. Wow, so Ole Miss, a couple of weeks off of beating Alabama, lose a game, get crushed in a game that they were not supposed to lose. Anything else? We had Arizona State upset, very highly ranked. I think they were 7 or 10 at the time. UCLA, that final score was 38-23. We also had, in a great ranked game, we had Clemson win by 2 points over Notre Dame, 24-22. And we also had Boise State blow out of Hawaii 55-0. Arizona unfortunately got crushed by Stanford. I liked Arizona's chances this year, 55-17. And all the other games, I don't really care about that much. So let us move on to your current top 25 college rankings. So let's focus. We'll start off on the AP. That's kind of the most official top 25 rankings, because there's kind of 3 top 25 rankings you can go by in college football. There's the AP, standing for Associated Press, which is your media, sports writers and stuff, top 25, which I'm still waiting for my letter or call or email or whatever for when I can start voting. NCAA, whenever you like. I'm waiting on you. I'm open. I'll do it. You just got to ask. But so the AP top 25, we got Ohio State still at number 1, TCU at number 2, Baylor up to number 3, or no, they're still at number 3, I think maybe. Michigan State University at 4, Utah moving up to number 5. Michigan State was number 2. So they moved down 2 spots to number 4. TCU moved up 2 spots from 4 to 2. Baylor moved up 2 spots from 3 to 5. And then we got Utah up 5 spots from number 10 to number 5, receiving a few first place votes as well. Third most first place votes actually would go Ohio State, Baylor, Utah, then TCU, and then Texas A&M receiving 1. Whoever that crazy SOB is. But anyway, we'll get to them in a second. So we got Utah rounding out the top 5, followed by Clemson up from 12 to 6 at number 6. LSU up to 7 from 9 last week. We got Alabama at 4-1, your highest ranked 1-loss team. They are ranked number 8, up 5 spots from number 13 last week. At number 9, we've got Texas A&M 5-0, up 5 spots from number 14, and they do have 1 first place vote. Then we got Oklahoma up from 15 to 10. We've got Florida up from 25 to 11, the biggest jumper of the week